Welcome, everybody. I feel like we have a few people missing, so I'm going to wait maybe one more minute, a couple more minutes. Since our last meeting, I've had the opportunity to meet two of our task force members in person. Kelly and Kathy are back, and we didn't even realize until about 20 minutes into the meeting, it was the first time we had ever been in the same room together, and we've been talking since what, May? April or May. So nice to meet our nurses. Already working hard. Okay, well, I want to do want to kind of respect people's time. So we will start pretty soon here. Go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see that? Thank you. Well, welcome back to our regularly scheduled Return to Learn Task Force meeting, Thursdays at 1, not for long. I do have a few updates today that we've been working on for the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so. So I want to jump into the presentation here. I appreciate it, as always, you guys joining me, us, the administrative team, for this meeting. We're going to quickly go through our enrollment update, talk through a few things. I'm going to update you on a change that we are making to our school year calendar. We're going to talk about some other dates that have been determined for other activities, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions. Okay, so as you know, we offered early in the summer an option for doing learning at home or in school. We had our initial numbers, and then based off of those numbers, we offered a hybrid option to those families who had chosen to be with us in school. And the rationale behind that is because we needed to get our numbers down. We will talk a little bit in the coming minutes here about some even more changing guidance that we received a couple of days ago from the Illinois Department of Health, which is based on clarifying guidance from the CDC. To say that this is becoming more challenging with the guidance changing as it is to bring students back is a bit of an understatement. Our administrative team is working really hard to try to make this happen. But one of the critical pieces that we have to have in place in order to continue to offer an in-school learning option is the least amount of children in the building as possible. And so we had not heard from some families who we reached out to multiple times to give us their preference for in-person or at-home learning. And after a bunch of attempts, we are now enrolling people that we haven't heard from, folks that we haven't heard from, into at-home learning to keep our numbers down as low as possible. And new registrations will also be at home as well until second trimester, when we can offer, hopefully, when we can offer an option again. Again, we'll talk a little bit about metrics and what we're watching. We're currently at, I just checked now, usually the region metrics get updated at around 12:30 or 1 in the afternoon for that rolling 7-day average. And at this point, we are at 5.8, I believe, and we've had 6 days of positivity rate increases in our region, which is region 9. And I'll go to the next slide unless anyone has any questions. We can start talking about some more data that will be coming our way to make decisions. But does anyone have any questions about enrollment at this point? I'm trying to see if I can see my participants too. Okay, nobody's hand is raised. And remember, for this meeting, there's no reason to raise hands. You can absolutely unmute and ask questions. All right, so some current issues that we are facing right now. So since our last meeting, many more surrounding districts have shifted into full remote learning, which makes our situation a bit more challenging as our staff have now emerged with some childcare concerns of their own for their own children. And so we as an administrative team have been working to solidify a partnership with our park district to provide care for school-age children from ages 4 to 12 for our staff members so that they can join us for the in-person learning experience. And the Park District is working on that, working on their structure, working on their plan. We believe we will be able to accommodate that at this point. We're still working out some of the final details. We have started as a district to meet regularly with the Lake County Health Department and other districts in Lake County that are moving into the direction that we are, either hybrid or full in person. And that's a smaller group. So we're just trying to kind of use our health department really in a strategic way to help us with as we look at data and things that are happening in districts that are trying to bring students back. We're solidifying that partnership as well. There has been some clarification on our guidance, which I want to make sure that the task force is fully aware of. I think we talked about this last time that, you know, one of the sticking points in terms of metrics for knowing whether or not we can continue to have in-person learning at school is our ability to provide the facilities for that in the space. And these next two metrics are proving to be a little bit difficult in that sense. So when a student presents with any of the symptoms, and remember, we are going to have students self-certifying before they come to school, but if they complain of any symptom of COVID, and now the clarification that we've received is that it's regardless of underlying conditions. If any symptom is reported, that student needs to go home. And the reason for that is because if we say have a student, for example, who has seasonal allergies and coughs or sneezes on a regular basis at certain times of the year, it would be difficult for us to determine, our nurses are not diagnosticians, it would be difficult for us to determine whether or not that is COVID related. So if a student is presenting with that kind of symptom at any time, they will be asked to go home. And that at that point, the room will have to be, the children in the room will have to be moved to an alternate location so that we can clean and disinfect that room. The other piece of clarifying information that we received this week is that not only would that student have to go home, but the siblings would have to go home as well until all were evaluated by a physician and given the go-ahead to come back to school. The good news for families is that, you know, telehealth can work for that, but they do need to consult with a physician or they need to stay out for, I believe it's 10 days until, or, you know, as long as their symptoms have resolved at the end of that 10 days, which again, for children with underlying conditions that might cause them to have headaches or stomach aches or, you know, sneezing or coughing, it's going to be very difficult for them to maintain an in-person learning experience for that reason. So that's a bit of a challenge that we're working through because as we know, the teachers on the call and parents on the call, kids present with symptoms a lot, those types of symptoms. And so we've been meeting with our nurses to kind of problem solve around the logistics of that. And how we are going to be handling it. Our administrators are working really hard, and this is where keeping the numbers down makes a big difference because we need to have alternate locations in the school to have classes move to. And so again, another reason for keeping as many children home as we can is that we need those extra locations because we anticipate that there will be students who will present with symptoms and we will need to move classrooms to clean. Any questions on that guidance? Administrators, did I miss anything on that piece?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Sure. Another piece that we've been working through that's been a bit challenging is contacting all of our families with the, you know, making sure that we have correct enrollment for all students. You know, as you know, we gave families choice, which is a great thing, but has also been challenging for us to manage a bit because we've had some folks who, again, haven't responded in some cases, but in other cases have also asked to switch their preference. And at this point, we are not switching preference in to school. We are allowing parents to opt out as we know, we're trying to get our numbers down, but we are not allowing any more enrollments in school, because we are, now creating our lists, our staff lists, staff assignments, creating room assignments, trying to get our teachers back so that they can prepare for the school year. Another update that we have is that our school supply kits have been delayed. We are not sure the timeline for those, but the company is having some issues getting our school supply kits to us, which we know we need regardless of whether students are in person or at home. We also have technology that has been delayed. It was ordered on time in the spring, but as we can imagine, these companies are overloaded with orders, and we will need to do some shifting of what devices our children will have. All of our kids will still have devices, but we will have a group that will have a different device this year because of a delay in the shipment. And so we will need to provide some professional development to that team of teachers and some additional instruction for students. So I bring all of this up because I want to move into the calendar change that we are going to be recommending tonight at the board meeting. The alterations to the school calendar that we are going to be presenting tonight to the Board of Education are the following. We are going to, and this is after meeting with our calendar committee here in Lake Bluff with teachers and administrators. We are going to be keeping our teacher institutes, 4 of them in place that we had talked about before. Next week, August 18th through the 21st, will be teacher work days, a combination of institute and remote learning planning days. And then we are going to ask for a week for administrators and staff to get into the building, prepare their classrooms a bit more, plan for their lessons a bit more. So the week of the 24th, we are not going to be having teachers doing institute or teaching. We want to give that time for planning, for administrative planning, so that we can be prepared for a start on September 1st. August 31st, that Monday, would be another planning day for teachers to come back and meet. And then we would have our 1st through 8th grade students begin on September 1st. Pre-kindergarten student screening will be that Monday, August 31st, with student start on September 3rd. Kindergarten screening would begin on September 1st and happen through the 4th. And then, as we had done last year, those students would begin on September 8th, which is a week after our 1st through 8th graders. That pushes our last day of school to June 10th, unless we happen to use any emergency days. I don't anticipate that we will be using emergency days, like for weather-related emergencies. Since we're running a remote platform this year, it would be very easy for us, if we're still able to be in person, to transition to a remote platform for that day, as opposed to trying to adjust the calendar. So I don't see us extending out to June 17th at all. That's kind of a holdover from the old days of not having a remote plan, which now we all have. So it's there as we need to have it, but I don't see us going any further than June 10th. And again, this extra time of a week allows us a little bit more time for professional development, for teachers to plan, for us to set our classrooms and make sure that everyone feels prepared for our safety and health protocols, how we will transition kids out of rooms who have symptoms, how we will handle alternate locations, and also allow us a little bit more time to develop the partnership for the Park District that will ensure the teachers who need help with childcare will have that help so that they can start with us in person. Are there any questions on the adjustment to the calendar?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So that week of the 24th through the 28th, what will that look like? Will that be optional? Will people be required to come in?
Nope, that's all optional, but the building will be open if people want to come in. There will probably, I'm hoping to have some optional professional development opportunities for teachers to engage in if they would like to. But really that's a time for them to take what they learn next week. And if they'd like to do any planning or preparation, because it's been a tough summer, I know that teachers typically, knowing what they're going into, typically take some days over the summer to kind of think through and plan. And this has been a difficult summer to be able to do that because there's been so much that's up in the air. So that's an opportunity for teachers if they would like to, but really it's more about administrators being able to make sure classrooms are set, safety protocols are set. We know we have all the equipment in place, all the procedures in place to be able to keep everyone safe as we try to go back in.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think we know that this is going to be a bit of a difficulty maybe, or a curveball for some families, and we recognize that. We still feel like we're pretty much in line with surrounding districts. Lake Forest will begin with remote learning on August 31st. There are some districts in our area who've delayed a start until after Labor Day, which we talked about and decided against. So we feel like this is still a good timeline to begin school, and it will give us the time we need to make sure we're really prepared. Administrative team, anything else on that? So some other dates we're going to go through, and then, should everything go well tonight at the board meeting, this information will be sent out to all families on Friday. We are going to begin with supply pickup. We hope, if our supply kits are in at this time, we hope that by August 24th, we can begin supply pickup. Specific times will be sent to families from the buildings. We are going to have our orientation. We're combining kind of an orientation to the school year for everyone with our typical new families, sixth grade orientation, all those separate orientation activities that we've had in the past. We actually just feel like everyone needs to be oriented to the year. And so we're going to be offering that opportunity on the 26th at night for families to join into webinars, one for the elementary school at 6 and one for the middle school at 7. That will be an opportunity for our building administrators to present some building specific information, what the day will look like, some scheduling information on Wednesday, August 25th. Like I said before, pre-kindergarten screening will happen on Monday, August 31st, and we'll send out more information on that as soon as we can. Meet the Teacher Day will be Monday, August 31st in the afternoon. And after a lot of discussion with our administrative team, we have decided that since our safety protocols really prohibit any extra visitors from being in the building, only essential personnel, we are going to have Meet the Teacher be remote for all students this year. We want to make sure it's an equitable experience meeting the teacher for the first time for the kids who are going to be at home learning and the ones who are in school. And we want to keep it as safe as possible. We know that as we attempt to bring kids back into the building, there's going to be a lot of time needed for kids to adjust and acclimate to the safety procedures and protocols that we have to have in place. And that they won't be ready to do that at the time that we have Meet the Teacher Day. And even if we were to have it, say outside, we still will need to have protocols and procedures in place for that because kids need to remain 6 feet apart, still wearing protective equipment, et cetera. And then our
one thing, sorry,
sorry,
if I could just add, only because we had a team facilitator meeting where we shed a little more light on that this morning. I just want to encourage all of our middle school students to be part of that Meet the Teacher experience. They'll be working directly with their advisor, who will actually help to set them up for the first day of school, because we have a revolving schedule, of course, for middle school classes. Advisors have an activity plan to help them understand exactly when and where they're going to be logging in, and help them to build a personalized schedule so that they'll be ready to go for the first day of school.
Thanks, Nate.
I had a question for the Meet the Teacher. Will it be like a group thing online, or will you be able to sign up and have individual opportunity with the teacher that you're meeting?
We're still working out some of the logistics on that. We've talked a little bit about video, introductions for teachers. We want to make sure that the kids get an opportunity to see the faces of all the folks that they'll probably be working with for the year. So again, we're still kind of working out the details, but appreciate that as a thought. And again, kindergarten screening, we're going to continue with the model that we began last year in terms of having that opportunity individually. That will be an on-site screening process for all students. We'd like to encourage our remote students to come on site with us to do this kindergarten screening, which will be very personalized and individualized. We want our newest learners to be able to meet their teacher in person and for us to be able to get an accurate assessment of kind of where they are before we begin the year. And that more information will be coming on that shortly as well. And that is the information that I have to present today. And it's not a lot, but it's big information for us. We've been working through this week a lot of logistics and details and sort of planning for both our in-person and our remote learners, and making sure that we have, like to Nate's point, a lot of information that we need to give out to people, and kind of thinking through what next week will look like and what we can provide to families so that we can hit the ground running. Any thoughts or questions at this point?
I just want to say thank you as a teacher for giving us this time to be able to fully plan and be able to implement these things, and giving us the time for the preschool screening and the ability to do the kindergarten screening, which makes such a difference when creating those classes and things like that. So thank you so much for building that into our back to school schedule.
Thanks, Kate.
Lisa, I did notice that there's a hand up in the waiting room. I don't know if we can call on them.
Great. Yep. Let me do that. Okay. Sarah? Let me try to unmute. You should be able to go now, Sarah.
Hi, yeah. As a parent, I was just calling, and I was interested to know, when are we going to know the specifics of what the schedule is going to look like, whether it's if we signed up for in-person or hybrid? When will we have any idea? I mean, as a parent, we're still trying to plan, and if we're working, we're trying to figure out logistics, and I don't even know where to start to plan for the rest of the year or tomorrow.
I know. Thank you for asking that question. The welcome letters for families will be out by August 21st, which is a week from tomorrow. And then again, that webinar will give some more specific information about what the day will look like, but that welcome letter will indicate the schedule that your child will have.
Okay, thank you.
I should have included that on my dates. Sorry about that.
Just to clarify, Lisa, if they put on their form when they made their choice that they would go in person but were open to a hybrid, were those families contacted and told which days they were coming? You know what I'm saying? No,
not yet. So we have the two options, and the admin team has been trying to contact everyone to make sure that we get a response for everyone. And again, that's sort of been unfortunately a challenging aspect of this, is to try to have everyone respond and let us know if they're interested in a hybrid first. And then we were able to, kind of look at the numbers and decide how we can get an even number of kids on each schedule. And again, we're trying to keep families together with that. So we're very close to knowing what that's going to be. It will be a split down the alphabet. One half of the alphabet will have the Monday, Wednesday schedule, and the other half will have the Tuesday, Thursday. I'm trying to look at the participants. Any other questions or thoughts?
Lisa, I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
And I'm wondering for the families, for the kindergarten and pre-K screenings, if there are families who chose remote learning at home and are not comfortable coming into the building, will there be an opportunity for those children to still be screened?
Yes. So again, we want to, if we can, get people in person. So our admin team has been talking this week about kind of bringing some instruction to the folks that are home and uncomfortable coming in. So we have talked through with some of community partners and the village and tried to find some areas where we might be able to do some remote instruction for some of those students and actually bring the teachers to them in an outdoor area that they might feel more comfortable with. And if that is still uncomfortable, then we would have to look at an individual kind of online version of that screening, which is less than ideal, but we'd still want an individual time with that student.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jen. I do want to acknowledge, even though school has not officially started, I have been working with a lot of teachers and staff members already in meetings, and I'm looking at even faces on this call right now that I've seen a bunch of times in the last couple of weeks. Teachers are with us in this planning and helping us with questions that they have so that we can think through things and try to get information out so people feel comfortable coming back. This is a really difficult time for education in general, as you can imagine. Folks that are watching, or if you're looking at the news, this is a hard time for teachers to be anticipating a year like this, learning again and trying to figure things out. It's a difficult time for communities, not to Sarah's point, not kind of knowing exactly how things are going to go. And unfortunately, that is the situation we're in now. And I don't anticipate that we will be able to make any long-term forecasts for quite some time. Because even if the metrics are to change and we have to make a determination to go remote, we will then begin looking at the metrics to determine when we can bring children back, because we know that that's what the communities are asking for and what we know is right for kids. And so we are just in a situation where we will be looking at data, looking at evidence, collecting information to know what is the right thing to do right now, the next right decision that we can make based on the information that we have. And the information is changing a lot all the time, you know, so this is, and we are not alone. Lots of industries are having to operate this way now, but just looking at information and data and monitoring health and working with other agencies to make sure what we're doing is the right thing and the safe thing to do. But I don't foresee us being in a situation that's back to normal anytime soon, where we can have some sort of predictability or the ability to really plan that far in advance, although we will try to provide the information that we can. It's becoming really difficult, and I don't necessarily see it changing. I did want to talk about one more thing, though. I reminded myself. We've been working with the Region 9 statistics on positivity rate. We've been told by the Lake County Health Department that we will be getting some zip code specific information. I think I talked about that a couple weeks ago or maybe last week. But it's becoming more of a reality. There's going to be a dashboard available to school leaders to look at health metrics in their specific zip codes. And again, for us, that's nice because we only have one zip code really that we're dealing with. Some districts have multiple, and they'll be working out calculations to kind of figure things out. But again, that threshold is 8%. And obviously, you know, if we're trending up in that direction, we're going to start looking at, you know, when we need to make that call. But again, the zip code specific information, I think, will even be a little bit more helpful for us, because Lake and McHenry County as a region is a pretty big place. So. If there are no other thoughts or questions, we can end the meeting at a half an hour today and give people some time back. I know that everyone's kind of in a holding pattern in some ways, and I apologize for that. I know this is a difficult time, but I do want to express a gratitude on behalf of the administrative team for the teachers, for the parents who've been in it with us this whole time. And personally want to just thank our administrative team. If they look tired, it's because they are, because the team is working overtime to make sure that we can do the right thing here. So thank you very much for coming, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
You.